So people were just like cramming people over there to try and like make actual money through Blip. Blip was a weird service.
It ain't cheap being easy.
It ain't cheap being easy. Just like this Halcyon Frequency Podcast, episode 37, airing live October 2nd, 2022. You've heard of Arch. He's here. Suwey's also here. How are you doing today?
Hi. I'm doing good.
And I'm Blind. I'm hosting this here episode. Arch Plays Stuff, like I said, is here as well. How are you doing?
Yeah, not too bad. Still finding stickers in strange places, but apart from that, quite well.
I was going to ask if you'd called an exterminator for your sticker infestation, but it sounds like you haven't yet.
No, it's just really funny. Like, I put on my sock yesterday. It was a clean sock. And I had 2 stickers on it, and I was just like, oh my gosh, it's like glitter. Which is probably going to be like, my next community event. I've done makeup. I've done makeup. I've done stickers. Next September 29th, look for glitter.
Just, if you do glitter, make sure you're careful, because, like, environmental stuff, try to get, like, a non-plastic one if you can.
I used to watch a streamer a while ago who had a ping pong ball cannon, and so 1,000 bits would fire a ping pong ball at him.
Oh my gosh, I love it.
And it was very, very funny because, like, he'd just be doing something that somebody would drop $100 and just be like, pop, 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 pop. And I'm just sitting here imagining you with like a glitter cannon. It's just like $100. Glitter bomb.
Yeah, I would need that because the next day would be unpacking my entire room and vacuuming every surface.
Yep, just like then we'll have the post-excitement vacuuming stream.
Oh, yeah. The, what was it? Maybe the Avengers, at the end of Avengers, when they're all having the shawarma, and there's just that guy cleaning up in the background. There'll just be
like the destroyed storefront.
Yeah. There'll just be a video of a stream of me just quietly vacuuming while someone eats some food in front of me.
It's kind of funny because that one scene from the Avengers like immediately taught like the entirety of North America of the existence of shawarma.
Yeah, I know, right?
It was like the best marketing like shawarma could ever have. Suddenly, all of the shawarma places are now like upscaling, and there's fancy shawarma places here now. It's kind of insane.
It's funny though because he could have said anything, right? Because it's the throwback is when, I think when Iron Man falls back to Earth, and they're like, "Are you okay?" And he pops open the thing, and he's like, "Oh, I saw a shawarma place over there. We should try that," And
shawarma?
then. Yeah, at the end they're having that, and it's like he could have just said, "Oh, I saw a noodle place. I saw a burger place,"
Well, I mean, like the old school comic book one would be pizza, right?
Yeah.
Pizza?
1980s New York and pizza. That was a real strong thing.
But no, they went with shawarma, and every single little Middle Eastern place made a lot of money.
Once when I was little, I had a dream that I was like part of the Scooby-Doo team. And then I ate pizza and all the monsters came back.
Yeah, that's how that works.
Yeah.
Your dream?
I remember I was like 3 or 4 and I went downstairs to talk to my mom afterwards and asked for some pizza.
So what you're saying is you would have gotten away with it too if it wasn't for those meddling kids. How have you been, Suwey? It's been a while.
Your childhood dreams are unhinged. I just want to put that out.
My dreams are unhinged. I'll tell Suwey about them. When I wake up and he's like, "Are you okay?"
And then you're just like, "Damn it, I woke up." That's
no, because like, I don't know. I get some weird apocalypse dreams sometimes, so it's not a good time.
Apocalypse yesterday. But how you been, Suwey? What have you been up to?
The past few days, I've actually, like, kind of lost my voice and stuff, because on Sunday, I went shopping, and, like, I pushed my body too hard, and my body's just like, bleh. But I'm super excited because later today, which I know podcast comes out on Sunday, so this will be in the past, but later today I'm going to be playing Project Zomboid with Michelle, and I'm super excited for that.
Ooh. You know, I also go into a mild state of psychosis after going into a mall, so I can completely relate with that.
No, it's completely physical. It's just like I push my body too hard because I'm really out of shape. And I was like in this store for 2 hours, like running, grabbing clothes, and then like trying them on as fast as I could. And yeah.
If I just walk into a mall, I just want to keel over, like spontaneously.
Oh.
Like there's something about just like the white light, the shiny floor, the shops everywhere just filled with people, and like everything to me just this is gonna sound like the most like Western hipster BS, but it's just like I walk into a mall and it's like everything is so cheap, like that and that's a problem to me. And not cheap in the like, oh, it doesn't cost a lot, like, you know, a t-shirt might actually be like closer to $50, but like, oh, it's shipped across the border, crimes were committed to make this t-shirt, is how I feel when I walk into a mall.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. I've been trying to stay away from brands that do that.
Like walking into Forever 21 to me is just like, I feel like I'm standing in a war crime.
I went there a couple times in high school, and like the clothes basically disintegrated.
Oh yeah, 52-week cycle. You have to buy new clothes every 3 weeks. Come on, get with it.
It's horrible.
They should call it Forever 52 because that's how often you once a week go buy new T-shirts, because like your socks.
I've been trying to buy at like, so I'm not the best about sustainability with clothes or anything, but I'm trying to buy at stores that have higher quality stuff, and then I just go to the clearance at those stores to kind of reach a price that I can handle.
So I on the topic of shopping, I made a very big step as an adult, and I bought 3 pairs of jeans.
Wow.
I did too!
For clarification, I haven't bought jeans since before I moved out. I moved out a decade ago.
Oh. Oh,
you had some good jeans beforehand.
They were good jeans, and this past year was like the year that they all kind of had holes in places where I was like, all right, one of them has like a knee showing, one of them has like this awkward hole right beneath like my crotch zipper, one has like the like pant leg was falling off, and like my 3 pairs of jeans, so I tore the bottoms off of the 2 usable ones, and now I have 2 pairs of jean shorts, and I now have new jeans.
Oh, Blind's got jorts.
Yeah, I've got jorts.
He does.
I'm gonna use them for gardening. Because I've been looking for like a pair of shorts or something that I'm willing to wear to the garden, because most of my shorts are for hiking. And
these
so
are
like
my gardening
material.
jorts.
Yeah, I have 2 pairs of hiking pants and a pair of hiking shorts that are ultralight, like moisture wicking material. So I have bought pants in the last decade. I just haven't bought like daily driver jeans in the past decade.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. I've been getting my stuff through a bit of a pricey place, but it's good quality stuff, and I actually don't have any jeans at the moment. I'm just looking over it. I just did my washing yesterday, and I'm looking over at all my clean clothes, and I'm like, I don't actually have jeans there.
I have 3 pairs of shorts,
I bought some.
3 pairs of jeans, I guess those 2 pairs of jorts now, and 2 pairs of hiking pants, and a bathing suit. That's it. Oh, 1 pair of sweatpants.
I don't even have a swimsuit.
Yeah. What's your swimsuit, Blind?
I live in the desert.
What's my swimsuit?
I live in the desert, and I don't have a swimsuit that fits.
Well, there's no water there, so that makes sense.
No, everyone has pools in the backyard. Like, it feels like every 5th person, at least, has
have
a pool in their
your
backyard.
yard?
No.
Well, then you live in a desert, and there's no water there, so that makes sense.
And people go to the lakes and stuff that are
Besides,
up in the mountains.
who needs a bathing suit to swim? You're just not dedicating enough to the act of swimming. You can swim fully clothed or either. Who cares?
Yeah, see, my mind...
I thought you were...
Yeah, my mind did not go to fully clothed, I'll be honest.
Yeah, me either. Because, like, swimming in clothes is so uncomfortable, and, like, they stick to you.
I went on a hike last year, and we went to Hayward Lake. There's actually a video of it on my YouTube channel. And it was the 2nd hottest day of the year, and at peak that day it hit like 46 degrees Celsius. You can do math, Suwey, if you want, but it was bloody hot. And so this is a cold lake that's fed by mountains. And towards the end of it, every like 3 hours or so, me and my dad were just walking into the lake, walk out of the lake, keep walking, take shoes off, walk into lake, walk out, dry feet off in like a minute, put shoes back on, keep walking.
Yeah, it was like that in Australia as well. If you were like in the middle of summer, like because we only had fans, we didn't have air conditioning, so it would be pretty common to just go into the shower and like lightly douse yourself and then just go back outside.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I don't know. I don't think people need to own swimsuits as adults.
Yeah, no, there's just two kinds of people, When you said, you don't need a swimsuit.
I mean, I also haven't used my swimsuit in a very, 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 very long time.
Is it boxer like board shorts or budgie smugglers?
I'm gonna pretend I don't know what that second word means. They're like full-length shorts.
Because my parents tried to stop me from going into the water because it was very, very cold. Because, Pacific Ocean and all.
Yeah, it does that.
No,
you don't really want to go
relate.
deeper than your ankle.
Can't relate.
Yeah, and it was very cold. You'd like wade in, and then like you have to like stop, wait for your body to kind of like numb up, and then keep going.
Arch, to give you an idea, there's a saying here in Vancouver for people who go to the beaches: the water feels warmer in the winter because it's closer to the air temperature.
Wow.
Yeah.
Did you swim in the Pacific Ocean?
I've swum in the Pacific. I used to do the polar bear swim every winter.
So basically, we all grew up swimming in the same ocean, despite being on opposite sides of the world. The Pacific Ocean is too big. Like, I seriously want to submit a formal complaint.
It needs to drain some of it.
No. Just break it up. It's too big to fail. Break it up.
Are you saying it's a monopoly on water?
Exactly. It's a monopoly on like half the Earth.
I think we have our episode title.
Monopoly on water. People are going to think we're talking about Nestle.
I mean, that just gives us SEO ranking right there. But, considering like the rest of this podcast isn't going to be about Nestle, we are going to talk about some video games. So I think we're going to go to a real quick break. And when we come back, we're going to be talking about the games that we've been playing this week. And I hope that you enjoy this real quick message from a friend of the show, Falhoin.
Hi there, I am Falween and I'm a content creator and streamer over at Twitch and YouTube. I also produce and host the podcast ActiveCast, where I interview people about exercise, training and health from a perspective of a gamer, streamer or someone who sits still a lot. I hope to meet you on any of those platforms really soon.
It's 1.3 times smaller. So it's a small fraction smaller. That's the actual map of it. It's basically the size of the US.
I was going to say, Australia is 7.4 million square kilometers and the US is 9.8 million square kilometers.
That could be a fun fact, that Australia is very similar size to the US.
Canada's bigger than both, so shrug.
Yeah, no, my fun fact will be Canada is too big.
And we're back with Halcyon Frequency Podcast, episode 37. I'm Blind, I'm still hosting, and I'm joined by Arch Plays Stuff and Suwey. And I think that one of the two of them is going to start talking about Wylde Flowers.
Yeah!
What is it?
So, yeah, it's a farming sim game. People have compared it to, like, Stardew Valley and stuff, but I think it's more like Story of Seasons. Personally, and it's where you play, you're like doing your farming and stuff, you go to town, meet the people, but you're also a witch, so you get to like cast spells and do magic and all kinds of fun stuff, and I really enjoyed it. So I was really impressed by it because it has full voice acting, and that's like not really, I think that's unheard of in this genre. And so it was so refreshing not to have to voice all the characters while streaming, and I just got to like chill out, and it was a good time, and like the cast was really diverse, and it was overall a really good time. What do you think, Arch?
Yeah, I'm still playing it. Like I'm dedicated to playing through the entire story. And it's an absolutely beautiful game. It's made by Studio Dry Dock in Australia. So a little bit of a shout out to my my home country, even if they're in Melbourne, not Sydney. I'll forgive them. The game is like I said, incredibly diverse, both in ethnicities, in all of the ways, I'll say, because starting to list them all sounds a little bit weird. But it's each character is incredibly unique, not just in their own voice, but in their own personality and their own walk. Watching Studio Drydock on Twitter talking about things, they're like, for the baker guy, they wanted that jovial tummy first walk, and then they added a slight bouncing animation to it, and they went through all of this, and it's just really cool seeing that. And the story itself is really good. Basically, you return because your grandmother's unwell, and you find out about this the coven that your grandmother is a part of, and so there's like getting to know them, learning the spells, learning your own heritage, and
then there's also a witch that's like trying to attack the coven, and you see that like right at the beginning, actually.
Yeah.
And
there's an element of mystery to it. And so the storyline of it all is actually quite engaging, and like every time you think that, okay, so like I've joined, I now have to find out who they are. I do that. I'm like, okay. And then there's an event, and then you get transported to a fairy realm, a fairy town. And you're like, wait, there's more of this? And then just every season, it seems like the story expands. And the benefit is it's a full release. It didn't go into early access. It was a full release.
True, it's so nice.
It was originally on Apple Arcade, which is, the iOS subscription games. And seeing quite a lot of good games from there come to PC. Like
Apple's got a pretty good eye for putting games on that service.
Yeah. So it's really quality in terms of animation, visuals. It's got a distinct style that they've chosen. The people in it really feel great. They feel unique and individual. They're from all countries, all sexualities, all that, and it's very, very authentic stories about them. And yeah, it's been quite a lot to play through, and I've really enjoyed it.
There's proper subplots too, and it's like they're not even quest based. There's just like proper subplots that are there that if you talk to the characters enough, you learn like, oh, so and so, they don't get along and they want to, and it's this huge fight,
Yep.
Yeah, it's not a solid farming game. I will say that you are limited in the amount of stuff you can grow, and it's not like Stardew Valley where your farm is the point of the story. You can literally farm and never leave, and you don't even notice anything major. Whereas with this, it's the farming is something that you do for an hour, like water your crops and then bugger off. You also don't sell a lot of crops. I find myself hoarding them and holding on to them all.
I hoarded all of them.
Yeah,
oh my gosh.
Because cooking is a very strong thing in this. Spells and potions require various ingredients. One includes a chocolate muffin as one of the ingredients. So, there is a lot of need to basically hoard a lot of materials, which can be good in the sense that, these materials you can sort of keep a decent stockpile of. There's no inventory limitation in your inventory, so that's all good. But also when you're trying to make money and you will sell something and then 10 minutes later, get a scene and get a request for it, and you're just like, oh gosh.
Did you find a better way to make money than the way I told you?
Yes, a much better way.
You did?
Yeah.
How?
So spoiler, when you get to the bottom of the mine, you can mine gold and diamonds, and you can make diamond rings.
Those didn't sell that good.
They sell
not worth the effort. For the effort it takes, it was way faster to do the fish sticks.
How does it take effort? It's literally one hit.
Because you have to mine forever, and you don't always get the ore. I found that I got diamonds once every 10 blocks.
Okay, so a diamond spawns in the gem veins
I know.
One
But I got one like
one on the
every
floor.
5.
One on the floor. You mine it as soon as you get it. You leave. You come back. You mine those, and every 5 still means 5 swings of the pickaxe. Like we're talking easy money there.
No, but just turning into a cat and running around for, like 5 minutes. It literally takes 5 minutes, and suddenly you have like 3K.
Nah, I reckon my economy's better, but
Mine's so much better, dude.
We'll derail.
It's way less effort.
Min-maxing
I
with
get to
Arch and
just zone
Suwey.
out and go around. I just get to zone out and go around the seashore.
How many
You just
buttons do you want to click? Arch
Yeah,
wants
you-
to click more buttons. Suwey wants to click less buttons.
Arch wants to go to the mine. Suwey wants to be a cat.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, no, absolutely beautiful game. Suggest it's checked out. If you like those games and like a focus on the people of the village as well.
Yeah. Who did you go for? You went for
Amira, the doctor.
Yeah. Did you get to how far have you gotten?
We're dating now.
Cute.
So,
I
guess
I managed to get to marriage with Damon in the game.
Very nice.
Damon is such a sweetheart.
Blind sitting there going,
Yeah,
don't know what any of this means.
pretty much. Yep.
All right, how about you take a turn talking about a game?
I'm going to talk about something completely polar opposite of this. I'm going to talk about Incision. So I played Incision this week. I didn't stream it. Just played it on my own time. Played through the early access levels. Incision is a hardcore first-person shooter in a horror/body horror, fleshy, everything is bleeding, and why is there blood on the walls kind of nightmare apocalypse. It is a very fast-paced kind of Quake-esque with a double jump first-person shooter. And by default, it's extremely difficult. It doesn't have a save system in levels, so if you die, you die. There is a life system where you can find lives in kind of the secret areas around the environment, but it pins itself as a very, very difficult game. But the reason I'm talking about it is because it has a kind of awesome difficulty slider set. So something that we like to talk about on this podcast quite frequently with like Kiri and FG and Arch and like you guys to a degree as well, is accessibility. This game has 2 sliders that I think are kind of phenomenal, and I wish every single old school first person shooter had. It has one to increase or decrease the damage enemy bullets do to you, and one to increase or decrease the speed that they move at. So you can set them all the way down to a snail's pace to the point where you can walk faster than them if you really want. And this makes what is normally an extremely difficult hardcore shooter a very approachable extremely difficult hardcore shooter. And so I quite enjoyed playing through that. This is published by Hyperstrange and developed by Smooth Brain Dev. It's just a solo developer project as far as I can tell. It runs in Unity, looks like it ran on the PS2. There's blood everywhere, fun variety of enemies. There's a shotgun that has 2 fire modes, which is fire bullets or fire more bullets. There is a revolver with a dedicated flip the revolver around your finger button. There is a machine gun that has an alt fire, which is a grenade launcher. It's a good time. There's a weird spiky ball that you can smack things in the head with. It's a disgustingly violent first-person shooter with a banger, dark kind of bass music soundtrack. If you've ever listened, wow, why am I blanking on the name of this like one group that I was thinking of that I was talking about earlier with a friend of mine, which I can't remember the name of now. But yeah, it's just got a really good soundtrack. It's got a rocket launcher. It's got the things that you want from a first-person shooter. I think that the double jump is actually kind of awesome because it gives you like this kind of half a second hover in midair on the double jump. So the first jump is just like a normal jump, and then the second one you kind of float a little bit. The enemy design is really creative. There's like, your kind of standard cultists, but there's also like these weird like flesh turrets that shoot out like these spikes that look like a very long like tooth almost that then explode when they hit you. There's like these weird like upside down head spiders that run around and like shoot like bullets at you. There's guys that throw saw blades at you. There's just dudes that want to bonk you over the head. There's guys with guns. It's a fun game. I enjoyed the levels that are in the early access build so far. That's Incision.
That sounds like there's a lot going on.
It kind of like It sounds kind of like Doom in a way to me, though.
Yeah, I mean it's very much that kind of aesthetic. I mean, like the initial level is very much like a metal walled facility, except there's like blood coming out of every single hole and crack in the walls, and there's like weird flesh and eyeballs growing in places they shouldn't be. And then by like level 2, you're basically in hell, and then by level 3, you're basically in like a weird creature's stomach. It's like Doom but body horror instead of aliens and Satan.
That's kind of cool. I like that.
Yeah, I really enjoyed the difficulty slider features, and like I've played other shooters from this same publisher previously. I mean, I do some work on the side for them, so I should probably throw that out there. But that's with a different one of their published games. But I played Postal Brain Damaged, which didn't have these sorts of features, and I'm after playing Incision, I'm sitting here kind of going like, this should be a feature in every single old school shooter, because I don't have any idea how hard it is to implement, but man, it's nice to have, because suddenly like this game is playable and fun. Unlike Dusk, which even on the easy difficulty got to a point where it was like, I actually am physically incapable of beating these levels.
It's kind of funny to me that you mentioned how, you know, part of the accessibility thing is you can change the speed of characters and the bullet damage, because if you recall playing what's that game? GoldenEye. You
mean
had
like on the N64?
Yeah, Double O
Yeah.
mode allowed you to essentially determine, you know, how accurate enemies were, how much damage they did, and all of that. So it's kind of funny seeing what was like an endgame secret now be sort of like a accessibility thing.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I think it always has been an accessibility thing. It's just something that for some reason isn't included. Like for me, just making the enemies do less damage to you isn't necessarily a helpful feature, or just having less enemies. Like if their projectiles are still super fast and it's not hit scan weapons, then like it doesn't matter. I'm not going to be able to play that video game regardless of if the projectile speed is lower or higher. There's a point where it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
And like that was an issue that I even ran into with Doom, which is also why I skipped Doom Eternal. I liked Doom 2016 because on the kind of the baby mode in Doom 2016, I could just kind of fumble thumbs my way through it with a shotgun and kind of get by. But Doom Eternal just like requires a certain level of precision and visual awareness that it, even on the easy difficulties, I can't play that game.
Yeah.
So
that's really cool.
It's just kind of neat, and I just kind of wanted to spotlight that. I mean, it's definitely a game for a very specific audience. Just like, you know, Wylde Flowers is a game for a very specific audience. But speaking about games that are also for a very specific audience, can you two talk to me about Potion Permit a little bit?
Yeah. Honestly, I'm not as big on Potion Permit as I was Wylde Flowers. Sadly, because my problem with it is, well, there's a couple things that are immersion breaking to me, and so the main story doesn't always tell you exactly where to go. It's kind of obvious, but it still doesn't directly tell you. So I don't really like that from the standpoint of sometimes I zone out and I don't know where I'm supposed to go. And then beyond that, some of the characters will like say stuff on occasion that is not relevant to what they're doing. So they'll be walking around town and you'll talk to them and be like, "Oh, buy whatever you want," or "Let me know if I can help you find anything, okay?" And you're just there like, "I'm not in your store. Come on."
I mean,
You know,
that's not something I've really encountered, but I've also found no problems with progression so far. Granted, I'm fairly early, but a lot of it is basically you'll unlock a new area, you head to that new area, and you'll stumble across something in that area that will then trigger the quest or what to do next, you know? Usually, if there is no direct, "Oh, you've got to go do this," or a cutscene that introduces it to you, chances are it's involving you've got to actually stumble across it in the wild. And I don't hate that. Like I think it works. So I haven't had an issue with that side of the immersion. There are
Okay, also,
yep.
I find what the people say, like the villagers on day-to-day, really bland. Where I only really care about what they're saying during like the relationship quests and events, which, by the way, having them as quests where it tells you where to go when, love it. So nice. Because that was one of my biggest gripes with Wylde Flowers is, like, you can't level up your friendship with them more until you get your quest with, like, your cutscene with them, but it wouldn't tell you where to go for the cutscene, so you're just there with several people that you're stuck on a certain level and you just never happen to stumble across it.
Yeah, so that's kind of funny because I didn't even think to check that billboard. For example, Blind, there's a certain community billboard that when you hit a new friendship level, there'll be a message there like, you know, Cecilia the Nun's one is like, oh, I want to investigate a strange noise that happens at night, and you go there and it turns out it's Cecilia singing at night. So it's like, oh yeah, okay, you're a singer. But I don't know. For me, I actually find it really, really nice. It's incredibly beautiful looking. It's incredibly well, like the mechanics are nice and pretty straightforward as well. I just think it's kind of neat. It reminds me a lot of Graveyard Keeper in the sense of, you know, both the art style and, you know, it's a little eclectic. There's a little weirdness going on and such. But yeah, no, I actually really, really enjoy it.
Enjoying it, but if I had to tell someone to pick one, I'd tell them to go for Wylde Flowers.
To me, they're two completely different games. You know, do you like the focus on the story or do you like the focus on resource collection and adventuring? Because that's what Wylde Flowers is more about the story and the people, whereas Potion Permit is less about the people and more about, you know, being a chemist there in a land in a town where people don't really trust you, them opening up to you and sort of going from that. So they are different. Like, I really enjoy the resource collection and upgrading my tools in Potion Permit far more than Wylde Flowers. But
I disagree, but oh, have you picked who you want to romance in Potion Permit?
no, not yet.
Yeah, I'm like at the point where they're like getting it, like being into you, and I still can't choose between the guy who's at town hall and the carpenter.
Shao or yeah, I know the car.
Rainer.
Yeah, Rainer.
It's just like they both have cool things about them. I think Rainer is a little more interesting of a character though, so I might go for him.
I don't know. Can you go for Rue?
Yes, she is romanceable.
Yeah, so
It says so if you look at if you like go to your menu settings and you look at the people, there will be like a little thing that says if they're romanceable or not.
oh, okay. Yeah, no, it's her, Cecilia, and Runeheart that I'm working on being friends with. So who knows?
Mm-hmm.
Apologies for my long silence, but I was having an absolute sneezing fit.
You're allergic to us ranting about life sims.
I don't even know where it came from, but the thing that I wanted to say is your description of it very much makes it sound more like a kind of a JRPG style of life sim rather than more of just like a kind of a more modern story-based life sim. Because like I played like old Harvest Moon and old why am I blanking on the name of this now? Rune Factory back in the day on handheld devices, and that's kind of what you're making this sound like, more focused on the resource collection, more focused on the mechanics, less focused on the story.
Yeah, no, I'd absolutely say it's very close to Rune Factory in my experience, in terms of, you know, the town's there, the story's there, but you can kind of just ignore both and run off into the forest for a bit, and
Totally.
you don't lose anything by doing so. But if you want to progress in the forest, you have to progress in the story.
Yeah, a lot of those a lot of those older kind of JRPG life sims were much more focused on just like this is kind of the raw mechanical loop of what you're going to be doing, and even like the SRPGs that came out of Japan in like the early 2000s and late 90s, like Fire Emblem kind of comes to mind, where like those older games are very much their strategy games first, with like their rock paper scissors, like sword and weapon mechanics, very much trying, like, you want to pair up your units to like make them be friends so that they give each other XP, but aside from that, it's like it's very much just a strategy game first. And now like more modern Fire Emblem games are a lot like closer to like life sims to a degree, where they have like huge swaths of those games are just focused on like essentially visual novel and like dating and romancing content and that kind of stuff, which is actually what's pushed me away from that franchise. But like there's also indie studios that have come out recently that have been making more of the old school style of things, and that's kind of what this looks like to me, except for the life sim genre instead of the strategy RPG
Yeah,
genre.
like I speaking about Fire Emblem, I've got 3 houses, and I get that paralysis just because it feels like everything you choose means it's not just, oh, you're choosing one thing, you're choosing not to do other things.
Uh-huh.
And that sort of puts me in that mental paralysis of, I don't know which is the right choice.
I have 2,000 hours on Fire Emblem Awakening, mostly the ludicrous difficulty, or whatever the hardest difficulty is, and 90% of that is just like the 3DS equivalent of Alt F4, just shutting down the device, restarting, trying again, shutting down the device, restarting, trying again, shutting down the device, restarting, trying again.
Yeah.
To perfect every single level without letting anybody die.
And see, that's the other thing. They've got the new casual mode, which is basically when someone dies, you can still, like, they come back at the end of they get better. They come back at the end of the fight.
Boo.
And I know, right? Like, I spend my time resetting if I lose someone in all of this. And yet for some reason I can't bring myself to play on casual mode without feeling incredibly guilty. It's the weirdest feeling ever. Yeah, it's cheating. But
it's because we're old, Arch. That's why.
I'll reset every time to try and get it right still. Maybe it's that. Yeah. Maybe it's the starting from scratch and doing it versus, because you don't want to go through that process again. Whereas if you lose someone and they just come back later, you're like, oh yeah, no, they're gone. That's no worries. There's like less there's a reason why you're being careful beforehand,
Yeah, no, I completely agree. Wow, we just completely hijacked this topic about potion permits. So, but that was kind of my bit of what I wanted to say. Is it just sounds more like an old school kind of thing, which maybe that style of thing doesn't age that well for people that are used to something that's a little bit more new school.
Yeah,
like Suwey.
I mean, I like it. It's just like, I don't know.
It's not focused. From your description, it sounds like it's not focusing on the parts of modern life sims that you enjoy.
Yeah, well, there's just things that like mess with my immersion. Like I don't mind the grinding and all of that, but it's like, there's certain attentions to detail that I feel like, they are attention to detail, but they did kind of get missed. But I do love how you can have your dog track any NPC for you at any time.
Wait, you can do what?
So they can tell you where... What? You didn't know? If you... Oh boy, I don't know. I've been playing on controller, but if you press right trigger...
Yeah.
Whatever it is to get your dog to say hi, one of the options says NPC on it, and then you get a list of all the NPCs, and you can have your dog tell you where any NPC is at any time.
Wow, okay, I didn't know that one. That one's actually good to know.
And so... It's so nice because, like, that's one of the most annoying things in life sim games is, like, trying to figure out where an NPC is at any time.
I was literally just talking about that last video I was recording. I was like, it's because I was looking for Rue, and I'm like, this is such a pain in the ass. Oh my gosh. Okay.
Yeah, you can just have your dog tell you where they are. The dog won't move if, like, the person's not accessible for some reason.
Yeah.
But, for the most part, he just run straight to it, and it's really easy, and I really like it because in Wylde Flowers, to do that you had to like make this potion, and it's like a lot of work, and then you had to like follow it, and it just felt really slow. But in Potion Permit, you literally just have your dog tell you where they are, and it's so nice.
That's really good. I really like that.
Yeah, because like I get not having them like on the map, but at the same time, if you don't tell us how to find them and we need to go say hi to them, it's kind of problematic.
Yeah, like I said, it's usually the first mod that I ever look for is NPC locations. So, you know, kind of works for me. I quite like it.
Yeah, I really like it because it's like, I don't know, it makes sense with the game because your dog is like able to sniff them out, and so it makes logical sense to enough.
Basically, all the people in Moonbury are sneaky.
Yeah. No, they go to like random places, which I mean, it's really cool to see them interact and stuff, but it can be hard to find people.
Yeah. And that's it on Potion Permit.
Well, that was lovely, including the Fire Emblem interlude there in the middle. I'm gonna talk about FLERP for a second. FLERP is $3 and kind of fits into the for references FLERP. It is a kind of falls into the same section of games as I would call like a Vampire Survivors, except this takes much more of a tower defense angle. It's a very, very simple game. This is made by someone named Fool's Room, who I've been following on Itch for a while, who's put out quite a bunch of little free demos on Itch over the past year or so. And they're all very small games, a little one where you just kind of take a ball and you have to jump over like little obstacles and stuff. They're all essentially just little idea demos, right? But FLERP is a wave-based tower defense, sort of, where things come in from the edge of the screen, and you have to fight them back. Some people have pointed at this and says, hey, this looks very similar to a game called Snaker. Well, the reason it looks similar to a game called Snaker is it uses the same graphics pack, which is free. So there was people that were accusing it of stealing art. It's not. It's using free art, so... you know, but essentially you put down these little towers and they're all themed after kind of like little mythological creatures, and they're all themed after like kind of like D&D. So there's like a wizard, there's a like a spearman and whatnot, and they all kind of have these abstract shapes that they use to kill these abstract shapes coming in from off screen. As things die on screen, little dots appear on screen, and you move your mouse around to pick them up, and then that levels the over level up, and then you get money, which you spend on new towers. You can have up to 8 towers, and you can level up your towers, and then as you're re-rolling and the timer ticks up higher, more powerful towers start spawning. So you start selling your towers to get better towers, and then there's every 5 levels there's a perk that you can choose which upgrades certain types of towers, and the towers synergize to make combo towers, and it's a neat little thing. It's just a couple dollars, and I've put like 4 hours into it over the past few weeks. That's FLERP.
Yeah, I'm just looking it up. I really like tower defense games, but this one looks like it's got so much going on.
Yes.
Like
it is a visual seizure.
Yeah, it's just like red, green, and blue dots everywhere, and lines going everywhere, and
stuff turning into smaller dots, killing other dots. It's a good time.
Yeah. Like I've been playing Survivor.io or whatever, and so yeah, I absolutely get those auto battler sort of games, but geez, that looks 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 not impressive. Well, impressive, yes, but also like there's a lot going on. Intense. That's it.
When Fool's Room was tweeting about this as it was like being developed, someone was just like, "How are you keeping that above 60?" And he goes, "I don't even know." It's just sheer luck and insanity. There is like an intentional frame rate slowdown when you take damage to like so that you actually notice, but aside from that, like it runs flawlessly with like literally thousands of particles and units on screen. It's neat. I had a bit of fun with it, and I've had a bit of fun with it, and I'm going to keep playing it. I like a
Yeah.
good score attack arcade game, and this very much just kind of feels like that. It's a lot of hitting refresh on the reroll, spending 2 gold at a time to get the right towers to upgrade them or find the perfect tower to fit with your synergies. And then there's in between runs, little meta progression where you can your towers get X amount of extra attack speed or damage per level, and slowly you'll unlock that stuff and level up. It's fun.
Yeah. No,
Very
that
simple.
sounds really cool.
Arch, do you want to tell me about being a fish?
Yeah, sure. It's very frustrating.
Oh, really?
I had a chat choosers game event this week, and it was for 3-4 hours, and half the votes were for Project Zomboid, and I was like, that's more than just 3 hours mucking around. But luckily, pardon me. Luckily, I Am Fish won, which is a game by the same developers of Surgeon Simulator and I Am Bread. Strangely enough, they're all connected. So yeah, it's basically you play different kinds of fish and solve different puzzles. So at the start, you're the goldfish that mostly operates in water, gets into goldfish bowls and can push and roll them around. Once you get to sea, which is where you got to go, there's 4 other fish you play as: a puffer fish, a flying fish, and a weird bitey fish. I didn't get to that one. And I didn't recognize it just by looks alone. So I started playing. Yeah, it could be. I don't know. It just had really big teeth and really comical sized teeth. So it's kind of hard to say without actually, playing and being like, oh, this is its special abilities. Because each of them have special abilities. Well, the 3 of them. And the flying fish has glide, obviously, which is both absolutely fun and also maddening in its difficulty of managing. But it's a lot of fun, a lot of tongue-in-cheek, kind of just playing with some silly things. And yeah,
it's like a weird toy box.
Yeah, your whole goal is to get through these puzzle levels to get back to the ocean, break out of wherever you are. And that happens through various things you land in a mop bucket and you can swim and push the bucket around. And there's things like you got to push it onto an escalator, or you've got to, I think another one is you land in a spherical goldfish bowl and you have to roll it along this boardwalk above an airport. And so it's got the typical bowl of water or, water-filled item mechanics in which the physics are really lurchy. It takes a long while to slow, and if you go too hard in one direction, you'll be thrown to the other.
So I played this game ages ago for a sponsored thing. I had a Twitch bounty for it, and I played it when it was a demo, and as part of the thing, they were like, criticize this as much as possible and tell us how you like it and what you like about it and what you want changed. And I have to say that you're describing basically the same game that I played, very much you're dealing with liquids inside of a sphere, and you have to deal with all of the momentum that is going to come with that, and also then they ask you to do annoyingly precise platforming, and you're just like, please kill me.
Yeah, the one benefit they have is you can actually, when you fail, you can respawn at the last checkpoint, or you can spawn at the checkpoint ahead. So I did that once when basically you had to roll a mop bucket, so it's a rather large rectangular object, roll that through an air duct that then breaks and you fall down onto a luggage conveyor belt. You've then got to travel along as everything else breaks around you, and then you've got to jump out of that and fly down into a container that was filled with water because the fire alarm went off. And the biggest thing was it was pretty jank with the whole breaking of the air duct while you're on it. That had like a 50-50 chance of just throwing you out. And then when you got to the point that you could jump out and glide to the water, as soon as you touch anything, you fall, basically. And the hitboxes aren't super accurate. We're not talking Dark Souls levels of hitbox porn. There are a few instances where I would like hit nothing and I'd be like a whole fish away from the object and it would still count as hit. So there were a few things like that, and I think one of them, the chat was like, yeah, we can skip this one. So we've
like
fallen next to it.
A fish away is a form of measurement.
Well, I was in an airport the size of 44,000 fish bowls.
Okay. Well, I just want to. This is kind of a tangent, but it is related. I have beef with Bosa Studios, because they were working on a game that they didn't release, that they canceled. And this game that they were working on was called Splat Deck. And I have a question for you. Did you ever play with tech decks?
Yes.
Like those little finger skateboards?
Yep.
Splat Deck was tech decks, but Splatoon. And doing tricks painted the map. So it was a team v team multiplayer game where you're essentially playing Tony Hawk against other players by doing tricks and splatting paint everywhere.
All right, that sounds ambitious.
Yes. And they released a whole bunch of promo material for it and then announced a beta. But the beta that they ran was the weekend Call of Duty and a Battlefield game came out. And nobody played it. Like, just straight up. Like, it had a very, very low turnout. They ran the beta for 3 days, and they said it didn't hit our player requirements, and they canceled the whole game. And this is what they put out in response. I Am Fish and Pigeon Simulator. Come on. Give Splat Deck another chance.
Yeah. Now that you've built
me.
up a lot more goodwill, Bosa Studios, this is a call out to you.
Please.
Bring back Splatter Deck.
That, or make Splat Deck like some sort of single player thing, like we've had Roller Drome recently, right? Like, come on, you could do some sort of like time-based level thing where you're like splatting paint on a city as a weird skateboard without a person on it. Like, come on, that game was fun.
Jet Set Radio Future was literally you had to do graffiti over propaganda.
Yeah.
Like, that came out over 20 years ago and is still relevant.
just give Splat Deck another chance. Relaunch that project. Come on.
Restore the Splat Deck verse.
I feel like we're just like talking over Suwey. You doing okay over there?
Huh?
Okay. I think it's time for us to go to news, so we're going to take a real quick break. And when we come back from this, we're going to be talking about the news of the week. And hang in there, Suwey. Podcast is getting close to done. We'll be right back after this.
Hi, this is Tidikiri. I'm a full-time content creator and Twitch streamer focusing on indie and strategy games. I'm advocating accessibility in video games, especially when it comes to simulation sickness. I love chatting with my wholesome community, achievement hunting, and winter. Look for Tidikiri on Twitch, YouTube, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, and Patreon. And now, back to the podcast.
And we're back with the Halcyon Frequency Podcast, episode 37. I'm blind with Arch and Suwey. We're talking about the news in games this week. We got this some stuff about E3, some stuff about things that people forgot about, and then some Twitch stuff, and then some wholesome stuff at the end. So, Suwey, do you want to read this first headline out loud for me, please?
Yeah, sure. So E3 2023 is going to be in person. I thought E3 was dead.
Nope. So a couple months ago, E3 was announced to have been picked up and now run by, well, still funded by the ESA, but run by ReedPop, the group that puts together PAX East, PAX West, PAX Australia, EGX, and all of those events. And so essentially it's a new management company running the same event, right? So previous years, E3 went on a massive decline and slowly lost its identity and ceased being even remotely relevant aside from its online presence. But even then, a lot of the online presence wasn't affiliated with E3 by the end of it. Like towards the like the last 2 years, essentially, if not 3, the vast majority of the really big press conferences happening, not even affiliated with E3. They just happened to be on the same week. And I'm looking at this gamesindustry.biz article by Christopher Dring, and there's 3 bullet points here that I want to highlight. And this is from ReedPop, so the managing company, and this is what they want to improve about the in-person event for E3 2023 from June 13th to June 16th, so a 3-day event. They want to make a better business event where it's easier to connect and meet and conduct interviews. Problem with E3 over the past few years is they've let the public in, and this makes it harder for people who are going to, a business convention, a business trade show even, to do their business at their business trade show. It's gotten very difficult for in-person meetings to actually work as they're intended to. The second major bullet point here is make the consumer experience where there are things for fans to actually do. So improve the consumer experience. They make a better consumer experience. I missed the better word. And another issue with E3 is it traditionally it's not been an event where you can just go and play games. It's not like PAX. It's not like TwitchCon even. It's like it's an event where there are broken ass alphas on the show floor for games that are coming out in 2 years. And you're essentially guided through by a developer. These are not often meant for public consumption, so a lot of those games have since moved off of the main floor, and it's just becoming essentially just a PAX where there are demos there that anybody can play, but because there's so few of them and the majority of the stuff that's there for press and industry folks are behind closed doors, what ends up happening is you just have a couple of booths with not a lot to show and really, 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 really long lines. So it was a crappy event to just attend as a fan. And then
my experience with it was you waited for the reporters to talk about it because that was where you'd actually get the entertaining stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. And then the last thing that they've said here is partner support and be friends with everyone announcing games in and around E3, irrespective of whether they are actually in the convention center. And this is really big, right? And they go on later in this article to mention that they're going to do this for free. They will, if you are showing a game in the city in LA, they will just allow you to have space at the convention center to show your game, to the point where they're opening up another hall that hasn't been open in the convention center for this. So previous years for E3, what would end up happening is smaller games like indie games and games that can't afford the exorbitant costs for booth space at E3 would just set up in a hotel room close by, and they'd just be, sending press emails saying, hey, show up, we're in this hotel just next door, come say hi, but completely unaffiliated with the event officially. And I think what ReedPop is doing is just kind of like a reality check for E3, where they're just like, hey, like this event is irrelevant and has been irrelevant for a while, and the only way to make it relevant again is by actually like bringing back the people that left because of the exorbitant cost, the like ridiculous requirements, and kind of lackluster payout at the end for a lot of people taking part.
Its ego got a bit too big. I will agree with that with E3.
Yeah. So
the E in E3 stands for ego.
Ego 3, ego cubed.
Yeah.
But I think for me, as somebody who's like press adjacent and has, been a fan of this industry for a really long time, I watched kind of the ups and downs of E3. Like I started watching E3 stuff actively in about 2007. It was, I think, like the first year I really remember watching E3 and seeing all of the news announcement coming out and seeing all the press conferences. And at that point, I went back and watched older ones that had been recorded. I saw it I watched it as a consumer from the outside as like something that became big and bombastic, and started seeing YouTubers and creators that I enjoyed watching in the early 2000s or in the late 2000s and the early 2010s start going to the event. And like I saw footage, and I watched the thing kind of crash down in its irrelevancy. And as streaming and like the modern game press has kind of evolved, I think like its need to exist has shrunk slightly, which I don't think means that the event needs to cease existing. I just think it needs to reinvent itself, and hopefully ReedPop is the grease that can like make it do that. Like I did go to PAX this year. I do think that there still is a place for conventions. There still is a place for in-person events. I just don't think that there's a place for in-person events the way E3 was trying to do it for the last 3 to 4 years even, and I don't think that there's a place for in-person events the way we did them pre-pandemic. I think that they need to be a not more controlled thing necessarily, but a more intelligently run event. We need to make them better for people. We need to make them better for fans. We need to make them better for press. And we need to give them a reason to exist in a world where, information is out there on the internet and all that the publisher needs to do is push a button and start a live stream.
Yep, no, exactly.
I almost feel like I wrote that down. Like I swear I wasn't reading off a script or something. I've just been thinking about this a lot for the last 3 days. Yeah, that's E3 is coming back in person June next year. I'm probably not going to go because I don't think I could afford it. But I don't know. They need to watch from the outside.
Yeah, it'll be keen to see the info. Come in from outside for sure.
Arch, do you want to start off this next topic here?
Yes, in a stunning move that nobody in the world ever saw coming. Also, somehow sarcastically and literal as well. Google has decided to shut down yet another one of its projects. This time, Google Stadia. Google Stadia is basically a cloud-based gaming platform where you can purchase and play games remotely using cloud-based hardware, video streaming service similar to GeForce Now, I think it's called.
What is cloud gaming?
So basically, it's playing a game on someone else's computer while it's being streamed to you. That's.
But when I own a computer, why would I do that?
Well, okay.
Okay, I'll stop this bit now.
No. Let's break it down. The reason to doing it is mostly because you can play games in higher fidelity. Like, all you need is a good internet service as opposed to a good CPU.
I have good internet, but I tried using Stadia. True story, I actually did on my home computer, on my home internet, and I still got like the occasional artifacting if I were to turn the camera really quickly in that Assassin's Creed demo. So, how in the world is that higher fidelity?
Well, it's
maybe higher fidelity for somebody who only has a phone, or like just has a MacBook Air.
Yeah, okay,
but that's a very small niche market right there.
It's surprisingly...
And also, their business model worked was you had to pay full price for games that you couldn't even download onto your computer.
Yeah, but it was...
Wait, really?
Yes.
That's
they also had a subscription
stupid.
service where you had a small, and I do mean small, selection of games that you could play. It was like 6 games or something, and it would occasionally rotate, but like it was a full price release service.
Yeah. So the benefit is of them shutting down is they're refunding all of those costs, including those full price games, except for the subscription
monthly. Yeah.
So there was there has been that they've gone through some struggles like doing that. Of course, GeForce Now is also in the space, but this
those Xbox.
Yeah. This comes as a surprise to everyone though. Like even a couple of the engineers that I follow on Twitter and such were saying they weren't aware of the shutdown.
I'm not surprised.
Yeah, like let me just have a look here. The engineers weren't even told. They were gearing up to launch a game on the 1st of November, and they literally got told, oh yeah, no, it's actually being shut down. And all of this. So
I saw that on Twitter.
Yeah, nobody got given any notice. It's absolutely ridiculous how quick this happened. Google's not a stranger to shutting down things. There's the joke that they've gone through like 4 or 5 messenger programs. I think the latest one is chat, like Google Chats. But yeah, it's kind of a surprise to a lot of people because Like as as one Twitter user said, let me just find it and read it actually out. Oh, I can't find it now. That's a shame. It's let me scroll. There you go. To be fair, Google Stadia faced terrible odds in the past 3 years, having to deal with a global pandemic forcing people to turn to online entertainment, graphics cards and console shortages creating high demand for alternatives. If only they hit the market at a better time. You know, it's all of the stars aligned for Google Stadia to really take off, but it just never did. And so, while I'm not surprised at Google shuttering it, I am surprised at it being such, a quick turnaround and no notice to people. It sounds like a decision was made before a license renewal or something had to happen.
Well, so something that I have seen said about Stadia, though, is there is other uses for this tech. Specifically, people are kind of there's been murmurs of people expecting it to show up as part of Google Docs for editing video in the cloud, so multiple people can be working on one video file without actually having to send renders back and forth and just being able to manipulate the same software. There is other uses for this kind of streaming stuff, and I'm sure Google will do something with it. I don't think this is just going to be dead in the water. Even though the engineers weren't told, everything that I've heard is basically saying that everybody's just getting moved to different places within Google. Obviously, there will probably be some turnover, but it sounds like mostly people are keeping their jobs, which I guess is good. It's just, I'm not surprised. I don't think anybody is actually surprised except for maybe the people working on the systems. They were still actively releasing games. I saw games with also on Stadia as of just a couple of days ago. One thing I saw that was kind of funny was the Proteus account, which is a Humble published game, tweeted out a screenshot of Stadia adding them saying, "Hey, when are we getting a Stadia port?" And it's it's kind of funny, but also kind of sad. It sucks to see people losing jobs, but I don't know. There is another person on Twitter saying this is comparing to the Power Glove and the Virtual Boy from Nintendo, and it's or even the Dreamcast, where it's just kind of these misguided systems more than anything.
Yeah, it's what's that saying? Technology looking for a purpose. I have no doubt that the technology will work in other areas and be applied to other things. Quite often that's what Google likes to do. I mean, they favor innovation. They encourage their developers to innovate and look for ways to put technology onto things and such. So yeah, no, I'm pretty excited for what can come of it. I've never tried cloud gaming. I really should try GeForce Now at some point, because I've heard good things about it. That it is accessible. It is all of this, and I think we do need to take a moment to acknowledge that, especially as streamers, we have access to pretty high-end computers that aren't accessible to a lot of other people. I mean, disposable income that can go into computers, or for us, work income, I guess. But 10 years ago, all I had access to was a laptop that didn't even have a dedicated graphics card, and this would have been an absolute godsend to me. I would have been able to play games and probably play them with my friends. I don't know if multiplayer games is on Stadia, but there would have been a lot more accessible games to me rather than being stuck playing MapleStory, and I might have turned out to be a different person.
Doubtful. Suwey, do you want to read the first headline in this big old Twitch block of news we got here?
Yeah, so Twitch is testing a ping-to-pin chat message thing. I believe it's, what is it called?
Super chat.
Elevated chat, I think.
Oh, right? It was elevated chat. Yeah.
I like being elevated when I chat. It's fine.
Yeah, it's exponentially costs more as you want more time on your message. And I don't know. It's a 70-30 split, so creators do technically maybe get more than they would for subs, but not necessarily bits, because bits I think is 70/30 with fees included, but this is after taxes and fees, so it's probably not going to be as good of a split.
Yeah, I got 2 of these yesterday, and they're closer to 50 after fees and everything.
Oh,
They're not great. But I'm just gonna say this. Twitch, can you stop trying to cosplay YouTube? Thanks. This feature sucks.
Okay. I have no problem with Twitch going, hey, this could be a thing. The problem I have with it is donations work better. Donations allow the streamer to customize things. They can have sound alerts. They can have text to speech. They can really, have the opportunity for these things to stand out. The Elevate is mostly to get chat's attention, not the streamers, and that strikes me as kind of weird, right? Elevate also, like, only if you're a big streamer with very fast moving chat, would probably have an intention, a chance of the streamer noticing it versus anything else. But even then, a donation is better, and 95 to 100% of that goes to the streamer. The other thing, though, is it's just weird, like the people. Like, to take a moment, how there's an option to highlight your message for channel points as one of the default ones. The only people who use that are the ones who want to be noticed by the streamer. Like, and not just, oh, hey, I want you to make sure you see this. It's notice me, please notice me. Usually they've tried talking to other times and you've ignored what they've said, so they use that to try and get your attention. Yeah, it's just, I look at it and I look at this and go, what problem does it solve? And that's where monetization of something really does sort of work. It's, does this solve a problem? And there's no problem that the Elevate solves. It's just another feature. And like for YouTube, Super Chat kind of works because one, it's basically the same as a donation. They don't have as easily monetized systems as that. But it's just weird. Like, it's like they've looked at YouTube and gone, okay, so what's YouTube's strength? What's our strength? What are our weaknesses compared to YouTube? And the thing is Twitch has a better chat system, right? But they look at that and they see super chats and they go, hey, that's something that we've got a better chat system. They've got this. If we put this in, then we'll just have an even better chat system, as opposed to actually thinking about how it can solve something. I'm surprised they haven't tried selling channel points at this point in time.
They do. If you resub, you get channel points.
Yeah, no. I mean, just straight up buying. I'd like to buy 100,000 channel points for this much.
Oh, yeah. I don't know. For me, this is one of those features where I really hope that I honestly, I don't care if Twitch implements this feature. Like it's not something my community will use outside of like rare occasions. And even then, as long as I can like moderate it, it doesn't matter to me. I do not care. What I do care about is I hope that this is something like the initial rollout of bits where we can opt into it. And if we don't want to opt into it, we can disable it. There's this very telling thing on the Twitch blog where it was, can I opt out of these experiments? And Twitch just says no, which leads me to believe that these are probably just permanent features. And I'd be very surprised if these go away just because of how wide this rollout is. Usually when Twitch tests something, it's a very small number of partners. This is literally like everybody. So I don't know. I hope that this is something that we can opt in or out of, because for smaller communities, it makes absolutely no sense whatsoever. For like, yeah. Do you want to say something, Suwey?
It's a nuisance.
Yeah.
Honestly, like at my size, especially because like on occasion I'll go like almost a half hour with like 2 messages from chat, and it's like, this doesn't do anything. When I'm having 2 messages in 30 minutes, like on a bad day, like on a slow day.
I mean, me on a slow day, I can go 10 minutes with no chat, right? So like, I feel you there, like not quite to that extent, but
what I'm saying is again, this is only aimed at the people whose chat is effectively spam, right? It's aimed at the large creators, probably as a measure to address the, the cuts on sub count, because those are the people that will likely be affected by this, by having a message being able to stick around, as opposed to things like my friend watches Pay Money Wubby, absolutely huge streamer. Can't I listen to him half the time and I'm like, why do people listen to this? But his chat is just it's basically a live feed of spam, and even with this feature, you would probably have people competing to have their message up the top, That's where it's like, oh, okay, there'd be an actual use for this. There'd be a benefit for that. But even then, you're still losing out. It's essentially aimed at the top, the 1% of the 1%, because like, what is it? I think I'm in the top 1% of streamers.
If you have more
Yeah.
than it's at least a couple of years ago, if you had more than 50 concurrent average, you were in the top 1%.
No.
Let's see, I'll check.
It's even less now.
Probably.
Yeah.
But this was a couple of years ago. I haven't looked recently.
I'm looking myself up right now on the way to check.
Yeah, my average is 28, and I'm in the top 0.86%.
I'm in the top 0.73, and
What am
my
I in?
average is 30.
Yeah.
What am
So-
I in? 'Cause I'm in the 60s.
Um.
I'm just curious.
Yeah, I'll have a look now. If it ever loads.
Uh-huh.
I know the website's so slow that I use.
You are 0.32% of Twitch.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah. And
Yeah.
even then, as you said, there's likely no chance that the message will pop up that you'll miss because other messages push it out of the way.
Yeah,
Right.
So this is a completely useless feature for the vast majority of the site.
Yeah. And they're trying to push that 70-30 split as like, oh no, we are being generous here, but to them they're only doing it for that 30%. Right?
Yeah.
That's it. They're not looking at this is something that will help streamers. This is another way for us to make a bit of money. And yeah.
Speaking of ways for Twitch to make a bit of money, in South Korea, Twitch will be limited to 720p starting on September 30th, which is at the time of recording. And Arch, you said that you can elaborate on this one a little bit.
Yeah, so we've looked into various things with the South Korean market. My previous job did as well. And the South Korean market is incredibly difficult to break into in terms of any foreign media. I mean, Twitter and Facebook aren't even the dominant social media there. There is, I forget what it's called now off the top of my head, but they're very secular. They're very tight on their own thing. And breaking into the South Korean streaming market, absolutely difficult, absolute nightmare. And so it was known as a pain point for trying to break into that market. There were a few of them there, but I believe they mostly used the other live streaming service. So first of all, it was difficult for Twitch to get a foothold in South Korea and get like a strong monetized user base there. But then there's also a report come out that South Korea is pushing to actually have big firms pay for the data their programs use. So YouTube is another one targeted. Just opening up the actual thing here, had to click the prompt, the Korea Herald article we've got here. The proposed bill basically requires global content providers to pay network fees to local internet service providers. So it becomes an absolute nightmare of not only are you having to host the video, handle the streaming of all of that, you'd also have to pay for the bandwidth to the local service providers, and that becomes incredibly difficult. So as such, Twitch is limiting their video to 720p to save costs there based on, first of all, I imagine this bill, the impact from the bill, but also the reasons I mentioned as well, because data is actually quite expensive in South Korea. I should say Korea, because they prefer to be called just Korea, not South Korea. To them, North Korea is a bit of an anomaly.
I think to
but
most of the world, North Korea is a bit of an anomaly, but
yeah. The other thing is just basically, this bill, it reminds me a lot of the Australian bill that was aimed at making Google and Facebook pay for any news articles, like to host news articles or to link news articles. It would charge, like, they'd have to pay the news creators. It was very, very weird, and they actually eventually had to they had to do it. I don't know if it's still being done, but yeah, basically it's very anti-Western, anti-outsider thing, you know, focused on outside companies, making it harder for them to break in and basically muscle over Korean companies. So it's interesting.
I tend to agree. I think that this is something, like, when I saw this like pop up from like the Twitch blog and like Zach Bussey tweets, I was like, this seems a bit out of my element. So yeah, it makes sense. I think I really wonder how it's going, because like South Korea is huge for esports, and I know that a lot of like South Korean esports has moved over to YouTube, but there's still definitely a market for like Korean esports on Twitch, and so for me, like that just kind of makes me blink 3 times, because I'm like, whoa, okay, that's quite the downgrade, but I guess it kind of just is what it is.
Yeah.
Last thing that we kind of have on here is Twitch has been expanding on some old systems and re-displaying how things are shown. One of the things that they've done is they've moved the concurrent chat messages per stream to a different spot in the, like, your last stream stats window. So if you look at your stats from your last stream, it shows it differently. The major difference here is it also has moved the placement for the VOD in the your last stream stats screen to the same screen with the active chatting kind of bars on it. I know this doesn't play very well on a verbal podcast, but just like play with me. Now, this is a feature that Twitch has had in its stat screen for a while, which can be found underneath the concurrent viewers stat. There's like a little sliding menu where you could change it. However, they've moved it and made it much more bigger and much more prominent. The main change is now when you highlight the number of chats in that hour, or active chatters in that hour, graph bar, it actually highlights the VOD as to where it was. So you can like say, okay, people were very actively talking at this point. And I think it's a better display of an old stat, and some people were yelling at it going, oh, this is stupid, this is a feature you already have, like, why are you making a big deal out of this? But it's like, no, it's like a significantly better display for an older stat. So I think that's a change in the right direction.
Yeah, I think a lot of streamers also probably don't understand the power of various analytics. And this, especially linking to the VOD and such, gives a lot more strength to the streamer, the content creator, to make informed decisions. And that's always the key thing, right? You know, looking at that going, okay, why was the chat? What was happening at this point? And it could be something as simple as a discussion, or it could be something that the streamer was doing, and the streamer, a raid. Well, yeah, that's it. You'd look at it and you know why. Like, seeing big numbers is one thing, or seeing numbers is one thing, but understanding why those numbers are there, or how those numbers came to be, whether they're high or low, plays a part in it. A lot of streamers will be like, oh yeah, I'm sure everyone here can say, there's a game I love, but it's so dead playing it, like viewer numbers are low, chat activity is low, that I don't play it on stream, or I don't stream it. And so from that is, you are taking numbers, you are applying a learning. Numbers are low, I was playing this game, therefore I won't play that game. Numbers are high, I was playing this game, therefore I'll play more of that game or more of that style. And it's just the same here. It's more numbers which make it easier to infer the outcomes or infer the resolutions, and work from that and sort of actually create meaningful decisions based on actual numbers, which to me is great. It's exactly what you want to be able to do. Yeah, it's similar. It's something that's been there for a while, but it's also been put in a way that gives you a lot more control over it. That's it exactly, and I don't know. I look at this and I like it. And, I don't think it's get excited, get thrilled, but it's definitely, this gives you as a creator more power.
Absolutely. Suwey, can you read this second to last headline we have here?
Yeah. So Slime Rancher 2 has recently come out, and it has sold 300,000 copies so far. I'm actually planning to play it eventually. I have a review key for it, but yeah.
It's in early access, so it's not a full release, but it is out. And this is a tweet from one of the developers, and what they say is, wow, in just a few days, Slime Rancher 2 has sold more than 300,000 copies and reached number 1 on Steam with a 95% positive review score across over 6,000 reviews. Most importantly, all of this was achieved with zero crunch while offering top-tier benefits and unlimited paid time off. To our team, thank you. I don't really have too much more to say about this aside from it's nice to see things like this happen.
Yeah, no, it's absolutely great to see that it is possible, because I think a lot of the argument that happens with things like these, they go, well, crunch is just inevitable once you get to a deadline. But then you see things like this and you go, well, maybe it's not. Maybe that the crunch is something wrong with the industry rather than just a product of it,
Yeah, another good example of this is developer Heart Machine, who put out Hyperlight Drifter, Solar Ash and Hyperlight Breaker, which is their follow-up to Hyperlight Drifter. There's a series of documentaries that NoClip has been putting out following that studio on the development of Hyperlight Breaker, and in the first episode there it's a lot of recapping about Hyperlight Drifter and Solar Ash and them talking about crunch and time off and their work culture and making work a sustainable, consistent environment that's just something that people are okay with being in, and and the way that they avoid crunch and manage the time in their studio. And I think that it's nice to see that being a priority in business, because when businesses exist, they want to stay in business, and people who are creative making creative products want to be able to continue making said creative product. And I hats off to them pretty much.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting how so many places have managed to miss the whole, if you make a place rewarding to work at, you will get people who want to work there and who are passionate about this. A lot of games studios tend to get that feeling of, oh, you've got to be passionate to work here because otherwise you wouldn't.
Yes, absolutely. And that just kind of drains people, and it's very obvious to see from a distance.
And that's why I'm honestly surprised at how inherently common crunch culture is, because how do you have games that actually have heart and soul by people who are having that ripped out of them as they work on them,
So the next kind of and final headline we have here for the news section is kind of bouncing off of this in the polar opposite, which I saw pop up while we were recording this, so I figured I'd link it because I think it's interesting. Now, this comes from Brandon St. Clair, who is the managing editor of GamesIndustry.biz and previously working at GameSpot. And what they said is Duke. This is just a tweet, right? Duke Nukem Forever went 5,156 days from its announcement in 1997 to its release in 2011. All right, it has been 5,234 days since the first Beyond Good and Evil trailer 2, or the Beyond Good and Evil 2 trailer was released. So Beyond Good and Evil 2 is now officially the longest not canceled but delayed game in active development. Alleged active development.
Development hell.
Yep.
I mean, it's kind of
From
funny. With things
well
like
managed
that.
to mismanagement.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. Like, the one thing I look at and think about here is it's probably never going to be good. You know, it's
Absolutely
either
not.
it's either hit a point that it's been scrapped and started again, which is fine. That can happen. The one thing I want to refer back to is Final Fantasy 15. Final Fantasy 15 was in development hell as well, and they actually I'm just looking his name up. The director, Hajime Tabata, was literally pulled in to basically drag this game kicking and screaming out of development hell in order to get a workable product released. And like for what it's worth, he did an okay one, but it was never as big as it could have been. And you know, it suffered from being in development for so long because quite simply the plans were created and scrapped again and again. And so looking at this now, honestly, if they're still working from the original plans 5,000 days ago, they probably need to stop and scrap it and rewrite again, which I'm guessing either
They're not.
It's not. Yeah, it's either not.
It's
in
not
active
even like
development.
visually the same game from the original like
Yeah.
announcement trailer. Like
Yeah.
for reference, for anybody here who's not familiar with Beyond Good and Evil, the first Beyond Good and Evil is essentially like a Legend of Zelda style game where you play as a lady in a sci-fi world surrounded by animal people, and you're a photographer. So it's like a Legend of Zelda game, but you're taking pictures of things. And so there's like, you know, there's melee combat, there's dungeon crawling, like you go from area to area. It's kind of got like a loose open world. There's like fun sidekicks and like lovable characters, and it's a good time. It's a fun romp. But Beyond Good and Evil 2, there was an original trailer, which I remember seeing in like the late 2000s, which according to this GameSpot article I'm staring at right now was 2008. And then beyond then, now it's like some weird space sim, and the last trailer that was released included like this very expensive cinematic trailer where they then announced, by the way, if you want to work on this game for us for free and we'll feature your art in the game and won't pay you, you can send us an email via this website to apply. And then there was like rumors of it getting tied up into potential blockchain stuff, and then that like those rumors got canned, and like I don't even.
Wow.
They like tried to make it into Star Citizen somehow. It's very strange. And allegedly it's still in active development. Ubisoft, what the hell are you doing over there? Like the only thing they can ship is Assassin's Creed apparently.
Well, that's just updating
And
graphics.
Far Cry.
Yes, again.
Again. Speaking of things we got to do again, Suwey, who are you and where can people find you on the internet?
Yes, I am Suwey. People can find me over on Twitch. It's SUWEY. And then I'm on YouTube as well. And then I have a Twitter, which is @SuweyStreams.
Arch Play Stuff, who are you?
I'm Arch Play Stuff, and you can find me basically on all social platforms as Arch Plays Stuff. Predominantly on Twitch and YouTube.
And I'm Blind IRL. You can find me at Blind IRL on just about everything. And if you want to find more episodes of this podcast, this has been the Halcyon Frequency Podcast. You can find that at halcyonfrequency.com, as well as links to other places you can listen to it. If you look it up on your podcast platform of choice and you do not find it, please send me a DM and I will make it appear there. Although at this point we should be pretty much everywhere. I would like to say real quick thank you to Peter Pohl and Paul Mile for the lovely intro and outro and advertising music that you hear in the background. And what else do I say about this? Right. You should join the Halcyon Frequency Community Discord so you can get updates on all of our group events, as well as notifications of when this podcast goes live. There's a room on that Discord where you can discuss the podcast, and if you have questions that are relevant to be read on this podcast, we might read them out one day. And aside from that, we air live on Sundays, so until next week, do not change that dial. Tune in next week. This has been Halcyon Frequency, signing off.